Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So on the table you see two firearms, the STEYR M9 and the CANIK TP9SF Elite. So I actually had a viewer of one of my videos request or ask me if I'd be willing to do a comparison video on the difference between the two guns, what I liked about both, what I didn't like about both, which one I felt was more accurate, recoil, so on and so forth. So Kitty, this is for you and your husband, so hopefully you guys can make a decision on whether or not you'd wanted to chance buying a STEYR or TP9SF Elite. Now I will tell you that this review is going to be slightly biased only because I did not exactly have the greatest, I guess you can say the greatest experience with the TP9SF Elite. However, I will tell you that has changed significantly since it came back finally. And so what I'll do is I'll try to be as unbiased as possible with the review, and we'll start with the outside and then we'll talk about what's good, what's bad, how do they shoot, so on and so forth. And so this may take a little bit longer than the standard 4-minute review. So if I do, I apologize, and you can always fast forward through the video if you choose to. So anyway, if we were looking at the guns and we're talking about the aesthetic beauty of both firearms, I will tell you that both guns are very nice looking firearms. Depending on, of course, opinion. In my opinion, the STEYR is a really awesome looking gun. I love the way it holds in your hand. I feel that it's a very unique looking firearm, but also is a very effective and also a very good quality firearm from the get-go. Now, of course, the TP9SF Elite, if I didn't have any issues with it from the beginning, I would tell you that this gun is excellent. It looks really, really nice. It's got the Cerakoted slide, the different colored trigger, which is kind of a neat little touch to it. Everything looks really good. However, again, I did have some bad experiences with it. However, now it seems to be working fine, so I'm happy to report that as well. Now, of course, if you're looking at the ergonomics of both grips, well, again, that's going to really depend upon you. I can't tell anybody out there what's going to feel better in their hands until they touch one of these guns. The problem is a lot of people cannot find the STEYR anywhere because the STEYR has not acquired mainstream, accessibility or even likability for that matter. And for those of you who have questioned whether or not you should get a STEYR, my advice would be to get one. Why? Because they are really good quality firearms and they do shoot really well and they're pretty damn comfortable in the hand. Now, of course, for me, ergonomically, both guns are really good. I would tell you that the Elite doesn't necessarily have the best ergonomics. It feels pretty good in the hand, but it just doesn't feel great in the hand. I think that's one thing that it's lacking. It's just maybe a little bit contouring in the back here, maybe a little bit more of a hump. I would really like to see more ergos. It's not very ergonomics. It's very straight up, very CZP07-ish, even though that's a comfortable gun to hold, and so is this. It is not the most ergonomic gun that I own, that's for sure. Stippling-wise, the stippling is pretty rough. It's not going to hurt you or anything or tear up your hands, but you do have some pretty aggressive patterns in the front and the back, which are pretty nice, so you get a good grip on that gun and it bites into you pretty well, but it doesn't leave marks on your hand either. In regards to the polymer chassis here, everything feels pretty good. It's pretty solid. It doesn't scratch up very easily, which is nice, and that's kind of a side note to a SIG, which the polymer seems to suck on the 320s, that's for sure. Overall, you've got the finished slide in Cerakote, that tungsten gray, which is a very nice looking touch to it. I think it does add a lot in regards to the beauty of the gun itself. Again, out of the box, you came with worn tactical sights, so you have a blacked out rear, and it did come with an original fiber optic, which I decided to remove. The fiber optic it came with is actually right here, and what you'll see in the front here is an Ameriglow front sight from an M9. Now, it does shoot pretty much point of aim, so that's pretty cool. And I actually called Century Arms when I first bought this gun to confirm that you could use this sight, and they absolutely said yes. So from that standpoint, that's a nice feature to be able to do as well. Again, there's not a tremendous amount of aftermarket support. However, you can get lucky every once in a while. You can use magazines for a TP9SA or an SF or even the SFX, as you see right here. So that would be as close to aftermarket as possible. And again, the slide does lock back, so it does function. However, there still is not necessarily a huge aftermarket supply of anything for this gun. I'm still trying to get my hands on a decent quality holster. That's not going to break the bank, so I'm still looking for one. So if you got any suggestions, guys, let me know. Or if you own your own holster company, send me one. In regards to the STEYR, the M9, again, I really like the gun. I have an S9 as well. I got the S9 first, and now I have the M9. You'll notice I put some excess big dots on it just because I wanted some night sights on here, especially if I'm carrying it. And so far, so good. You know, it's really nice setup. I think it's very close to the trapezoidal setup, only from the standpoint that you have a very, very, very quick target acquisition, which I like on the STEYR. In regards to ergonomics, again, it's going to be really dependent upon you, but for me, the STEYR just fits in my hand perfectly. The hump falls where exactly it needs to be, and I love how high you can ride up into this gun. In my opinion, it is still the only gun on the market that you can ride this high on that slide. Your hand cuts in very deep into it, and because it sits so high up, it's very easy to control, and that's another feature that I like about this gun. In regards to the grip angle, I know some people say, boy, that just looks like such an odd grip angle. Like, would that fit in your hand? Again, I can't answer that for you. I do know that for my large hands, it definitely does work for me. In regards to some other features about the gun, I know a lot of people might say, man, that's a chunky gun. And yes, you're right. It is a big fat gun. But you know what? It's easy to conceal and it's comfortable to conceal. I've had no issues with concealment at this firearm at all. Now, in regards to the TP9 Elite, again, very easy to conceal. I would say that this is as close to a Glock 19 as you're going to get in regards to size. Even with inserting a magazine in it, let me just grab it really quick. You'll notice that when you insert the mag into the mag well, you'll notice that the finger kind of drops right to the actual polymer ledge. And you'll notice that the mag actually falls beneath that with its base plate. Now, of course, if you have a Glock 19, it's pretty much the same thing. So what you're looking at, grip-wise, definitely a Glock 19 size, no doubt. So it's very easy to conceal as well. Again, I haven't concealed it because I had issues with it, so I'm still running it through its tests, and I still need a holster for it to do that. Other than that, you get a 4.02 inch barrel. So it's like slightly longer than this one. This one's 4, this one's a little bit over 4, but it's nothing that's going to make you, a marketable difference between either one. Again, you'll notice also you have the front serrations on the front, and you have the aggressive ones in the back, but uniquely enough, the STEYR has them in the front. I don't do press checks, so it doesn't really matter for me, but they're both aggressive slide cuts in the back. At least I believe so. In regards to trigger, let's take a look at the triggers, okay? And let's rack this one. Both guns are empty. So if you want to look at trigger, let's see if I can do it this way, and so you guys can get a good look at this. If you look at the trigger now, it's not going to work. You'll notice that with the CANIK, there's a pretty good amount of take-up in the gun, okay? So that's a definite. You're going to get a pretty sizable amount of take-up. Again, does any of this really matter? I don't know. It really depends on you. If you're looking for self-defense shooting, I don't think it's going to matter. If you're looking to be a marksman, then yes, it would absolutely matter. If you're going to do competition, yes, it matters. But for self-defense purposes at this point, I believe it won't matter just because you're going to have such an adrenaline rush to pull that trigger anyway. But you'll notice in both guns, and you may not be able to see the trigger. Well, let's do it this way. You have the STEYR here, so very little take-up. So you can see that there's a huge take-up difference between the two firearms. The STEYR is extremely short. You have a little bit longer on the CANIK Elite. Here's the CANIK Elite's trigger, and here's the STEYR. So again, very short, very nice, crisp triggers. The STEYR, let me see if I can actually, there we go. The STEYR's reset is not as crisp as the Elite's reset. I will tell you the reset on this is much better. But as you can see, there's no sound, no audible click, nothing. But remember, this is a double action only. So it resets right where it started from, and then it breaks again with just a little bit of play in that trigger. The CANIK, it's right there. Super short, super crisp, and then a nice clean break. So, trigger-wise, both have excellent triggers. I could not tell you one is better than the other. I would tell you if you're into that tactile feel, then yes, go with the CANIK because you're not going to get that with the STEYR. Overall, shooting-wise, shooting experience with both extremely accurate. I can't say enough how accurate both these guns are. The CANIK, because it has such a nice trigger, extremely accurate. Because you can sit very high into the slide with the STEYR, and because this trigger is pretty smooth, again, very accurate. Felt recoil. Recoil-wise, I don't think you can beat a STEYR because your hand is so high into that slide. The recoil is extremely easy to manage, but so is with the Elite. Overall, I will tell you, you can't go wrong with either firearm at this point. Again, take it for what it's worth with this one because I have had some bad experiences in the past with it. However, it is slowly redeeming itself again, so I'm glad to say that, yes, I would technically recommend this gun as long as it's working for you. And if it's not working, then you need to contact Century Arms and you need to tell them what the problems are so they can address it and fix it for you. That is one thing I would absolutely say is a must if that's the situation. Again, Aftermarket support for either one is not great. I would say you may have the advantage for the Century Arms CANIK Elite. However, STEYR is still falling back in regards to aftermarket support. I really wish they'd market this gun better, because if they did, I think more people would really fall in love with this firearm. Right now, I think Century Arms is winning that marketing battle, and you can't beat the price point. I mean, this right now is coming in at $325-ish. This one is still probably falling around $450, $475. So for slightly over $100, you're actually getting less features than on this gun. However, what's questionable is going to be reliability. Earlier generations of the STEYR were plagued with problems. The newer generation of STEYR, which this one is right here, which I believe is a Gen 4 at this point, has had no issues at all. I absolutely love the gun. Again, this one, the reliability is still questionable. However, if it works out of the box, if you have no issues with it, then you can't go wrong with a $325 gun that has a Cerakoting job, has a really nice trigger, and pretty decent ergonomics. Other than that, I hope that has answered as many questions as I could answer for you. And whatever, again, you choose, I wish you the best of luck on all of that. So I hope you guys learned a little bit about both these firearms tonight and compare in comparison to each other. And, you know, if you have any requests or questions, let me know. Feel free to leave a comment. And as always, guys, freedom is never free.